Hello, welcome to Classical Greek Latin. This is Greek lesson number 13 for Crosby and Schaeffer chapter 11, and this is a review chapter. So my name is Josh, and I am the teacher for this course. So let's just jump into this right away. So this is a review chapter is always a nice way just to make sure that you are keeping up with everything that we're learning, because of course language is always accumulative, right? It's always comprehensive. It always builds upon everything before. So let's read this first line real quick. Let's read the Greek. Sopho gar aiskron ex amartanen. Okay? 'Tis shameful for a wise man to make mistakes. All right? So let's just break this down. So here, you note the word for. It is, now, if you think of the word for, which case does that remind you of in Latin? Or excuse me, which case does that remind you of in Greek? It should remind you of the dative case. That's right. So the dative case we translate as to or for. Okay. So that's what we have here. The sopho, the wise. Now the word man is not in this sentence, in this Greek sentence. It's implied by the word sopho, the wise one. And it's masculine here, so we're going to say the wise man. But the word man is not stated explicitly, all right? So it's to or for the wise man, and then God just means for. And then we have aiskron, which is where we get the word shameful from. So this is an adjective, and this is our accusative, singular, masculine, okay? And this confirms also, because an adjective can have any gender, masculine, feminine, or neutered. So this is confirming our suspicion that sopho is referring to a man here. Okay, so aiskron. Okay, so shameful. That is accusative, singular, masculine. Okay, so that's going to be the limiting or the direction of the action, right? Which is this word here, which is to make a mistake, right? To make a mistake. X, right? To go out of bounds, mistaken, all right? So you note this is a present infinitive active ending here. So to make a mistake, right? So for, and then here it's not, okay, here we have it is, tis, it is. Shameful, the word is, third person singular, is not present in this sentence, right? We are using the word tis to smooth it out into English to make it not feel awkward for our English ears. But the idea of the mistake, that is bound up in the verb itself, right? So to make a mistake, all that is coming from this word right here. And then this word is provided in English to make it sound smooth to our English ears, but tis is not in the Greek. Okay, so to make a mistake, and now we're going to put in the limiting the direction of that unto shame. So you could say to err or to make a mistake unto shame, the direct object, right? The accusative here. To make a mistake unto shame. To make a mistake unto shame. To or for a wise one, okay, for God. But that sounds super awkward to the English ear, and so we interpret it to mean 'tis shameful for a wise man to make mistakes, okay? And let's see here. I'm not sure why they make mistakes plural, but let's not get into that right now. But that's what that is. That's just for fun, a little bit of review also. But let's look at this now here. So we are on page 34, okay, in Crosby and Schaeffer, not to be confused with the paragraph numbers. So we're on paragraph 60, right? So let's just go through this. Review point A. Review all words in the vocabularies of lessons 6 through 10. Follow suggestions given in paragraph 27A. So let's look at that real quick. So we're at paragraph 60 right now. So let's flip back to paragraph 27. And there it is. Okay, so it's 27A they want us to look at as a tip for reviewing vocab. All right. So we have review all words thus far presented, observing spelling, including accents. Okay. When I was a student, I largely ignored accents. Okay. Don't make that mistake. Make sure you're including the accent as part of the spelling. It's going to help you out and keep you from being bogged down with the details. All right. So inflection. All right. Meaning and possible peculiarities of use. Okay. Study especially any words that seem unfamiliar. Test your knowledge by reference to the list on paragraph 549. That's on page 330. We'll go there in just a second. Another thing, words that have similar spellings but different meanings, you probably have to focus on that more because those are easy to confuse. Or words with different spellings but similar meanings. That is also probably something you should focus on. All right, so we looked at paragraph 27, section A. Let's go to page 330 to look at 549 for a convenient list of vocab. All right, so here we are. We are on page 330, paragraph 549. There we are. Okay. And so this is, now vocab, when you review your vocab, you want to review all the chapters going back to the chapter 1, okay? This provides a convenient place for all your vocab to review it all in one spot rather than flipping from chapter to chapter. Now, theoretically, you should have these all written down on flashcards, okay? Now, keep in mind here, for example, here's a verb here, dioko, right? Means I pursue or I chase. Remember now that we have learned the three first principal parts of verbs. So verbs in Greek have 6 principal parts. We learned the first 3, remember? The first one is the present stem, the second one is the future, and the third is the aorist. Make sure you're learning all those as well. So for each of these verbs, look it up in the dictionary in the back of Crosby and Schaeffer, and make sure you've got at least the first 3 principal parts written down on your flashcards. If you want to write down all 6 principal parts, you may do that. You'll have to do it eventually. So if you want to do it now, that's fine. But I also don't want to overload you with information, so just do the first 3 principal parts for now for verbs. All right, but there's a nice summary of our vocab that we've learned thus far, page 330, paragraph 549 and 550. Right, so we're on review number 2 right now. Okay, let's go back to where we're at, to our review page on page 34. Let's go on. Okay. So we just got done with point A. Now let's go to point B. Name and define the Greek words suggested by scenic, spondaic. All right, I won't read all this to you, but basically they just want you to, all these words in English we have stolen from the Greeks, and as a good exercise and a fun exercise, Crosby and Schaeffer would like us to acknowledge that and tell them which Greek words we stole to create these English words. All right, so do that. And again, I will provide all this on Patreon. There's a link for that in the description below. That is a $10 a month membership fee for Patreon, and we cover all the exercises and the reviews like this there. I will not be giving you the answers here on YouTube. I will let you work this out on your own. But if you want to check your work against ours, consider that Patreon link below. Okay, so do that. Number C, or letter C. Add 10 other derivatives to this group, namely the group above. So they want you to come up with 10 more words in English that come from Greek words. Now, you don't have to think of English words that have used the vocab that we've learned thus far. If you know of an English word that is from a Greek word that we've not learned that Greek word yet, you can still put that in your extra 10, okay? You don't have to stop at 10. You can put as many down as you like. This can be fun, but do at least 10. All right, letter D. Inflect, pao, dioko, harpazo, and lepo in all tenses of the indicative and infinitive thus far studied. Okay, so this is going to be the present, the imperfect, the future, and the aorist. Okay, that's what we've learned thus far. Present, imperfect, future, and aorist. Okay. And they give us a note here, number 2, right? So remember, some verbs have a second aorist, which I call a root aorist, and other verbs have a first aorist, which has the same root as the present stem. Okay. If that sounds unfamiliar to you, check the previous lessons. We talk about that in great detail. Okay. So go ahead and inflect these 4 verbs in each of those 4 tenses that we've learned thus far. And that inflection means, of course, to bend, right? We're bending the endings and sometimes the beginning of verbs for the first, second, and third person singular, and first, second, third person plural. And of course, the infinitive only has one form because it's not finite. It doesn't indicate a person. All right. Letter E, give the forms of axios and agathos that should be used with stratego, chora, dora. Okay, I won't read it all for you, but the only thing that Crosby and Schaeffer is asking us to do here is to these 2 adjectives, to match them in case, number, and gender to the noun. Okay. All right. So stratego, that is dative singular masculine. So axios. Axios here is masculine, right? But it's also available in the feminine and the neutered. But axios here, we would match to the dative singular masculine here to go with the worthy general, right? Same thing with agathos, okay? Again, agathos, the good general. Again, we would match that ending from, now it's nominative singular masculine. We would change it to dative singular masculine to match this dative singular masculine ending here. Okay, chora, we have a feminine here. Okay, I'm not going to steal your thunder, but that's what we're doing. Keep in mind accents. Okay, note here, accents on nouns and adjectives like to stay where they're at, so long as they don't violate the 3 more rule. Okay, and if again that sounds unfamiliar, go back and check our previous videos. We cover that a lot, the more rule. All right, but this no agathos has an accent on its last syllable, the ultima. So remember, here, for example, comes or comais, that is dative plural feminine, okay? Now here the accent is not over the last syllable. In agathos, it is over the last syllable. So remember, in the dative and genitive, both singular and plural, when it's on the last syllable in a noun and adjective, it's going to become a circumflex, okay? If you want a review for this, let me show you where you can find that. Okay, here's a good example. I'm on page 15, and I'll show you here. You can see the circumflexes there on the genitive or the dative and genitives. Okay, so when you have an accent on the last syllable of a noun or adjective, for the dative or genitive, singular or plural, it becomes a circumflex. Don't forget that. Okay, make sure your accents are correct. All right, and then here we have letter F, moving on. What time facts are indicated by the heavy type? Okay, so all they want you to do is, I'm going to add to this, they want you just to tell them the tense, okay? I don't want to steal your thunder, but the first one is imperfect. Also include, I would say, parse the whole thing. So it's imperfect, indicative, active, third person singular, okay? He was sending. All right, so do that for all these here. All right, so for this one, what uses of the genitive have you thus far had? All right, and then of the dative and of the accusative. All right, now I cannot remember what we have and have not learned thus far, so the best way to figure that out is go to the index. So let's look up genitive first. Now genitive, if you always translate it as just of, it will make sense. Even if sometimes it seems awkward, you can make sense of a word in the genitive if you translate it as of. And while we're talking about such things, the dative, if you always translate it as 2 or 4, like we did with sofo up here, if you always translate the dative as 2 or 4, you will be able to make sense of what the meaning is, even if it feels awkward, okay? Same thing with accusative. If you think of accusative as the defining stopping point of an action, it will make sense to you. That being said, let's answer this question and look up the genitive in the index. Right, so this is good practice. There's our dictionary, and okay, more dictionary. We want index. Here we go. Let's look at the genitive. Okay. So we got genitive. Here we go. All right, if you can see that, let me zoom in a little bit. So there's the genitive, okay? So we have genitive of possession, all right? Now, if it says P and then a 3, that tells us it's on page 3, okay? It says P 138, so page 138, okay? And then onward and onward. And then if it has just a number, right, of place from which, the number is referring to paragraph number, okay? So that would be paragraph number 9, okay? Let's look at the dative. So dative is actually on just the next page, okay? Here we go. So with adjectives, again, if there's no P in front of the number, that is a reference to paragraph number, okay? Of place where, paragraph 23. Possession, paragraph 32. Of manner, paragraph 44, okay? And then of means, paragraph 77. So let's look at paragraph 44 real quick. Okay, and there it is, right? Paragraph 44. Dative and manner, and they give you an example here. They flee in silence, like sige. There's the dative, how they're doing it. They're doing it quietly or in silence, right? Now the other note was 77, paragraph 77, but if we go back to our review, we're only on paragraph 60. So we've not yet learned the dative of means. It's very similar to dative and manner, okay? So that's what they want you to do with review letter G, okay? So you can find also the accusative in the same manner like we did the dative and genitive back in the index, the trusty index there. Get this, there we go, okay? Exercises, you know how this works, all right? Complete, okay? They want you to put the case endings here, all right? And they tell you for the general here, they want him singular. So you, of course, you're going to have to translate this to make sense. If should the general be, you know, he can't be nominative because there's a tau on the beginning, and the nominative definite article does not have a tau. Okay, so that means he's going to be dative, genitive, or accusative. But only knowing the context of what's going on here will let you know which one he is in this case. All right, no pun intended. Okay, so do that, complete the sentences. So go ahead and put the correct case endings on these words to make the grammar correct and to make sense. And then also go ahead and write out your translation in English. Don't just say it in your head. Don't just even say it out loud. Commit yourself to a translation and write it down. And again, if you want to be extremely literal, which I personally prefer, you may do so. You will sound like Yoda from Star Wars, which I think is fun. And if you want to smooth it out and do more interpretation and make it easy on the English ear, you may do that also, okay? So go ahead and do that. It goes on to the next page. Okay, complete the endings, the words, the definite articles. Make sure your accents are correct. That's probably going to be the most labor-intensive part, in my opinion. Okay, and then translate the Greek into English. All right. Letter B, exercise. Write in Greek. You've done this before. You know this drill, right? And again, if you see a word that you don't know what Greek word you would use for that, remember Crosby and Schaeffer, they are our friends. They are trying to help us out. So they are softballing us, and they're giving words in English that are directly connected to the dictionary in the back, okay? So they suspected that the garrison would not guard the pass, okay? So we want to translate suspected, so we know that's our verb. They suspected, right? And that's going to be imperfect. I'm not going to translate the whole thing for you, and we know it's third person plural. But we can't remember the word for suspected. Let's look it up. Let's look up suspect in the dictionary and see how kind Crosby and Schaeffer had been to us. So we want our English to Greek dictionary. All right, we're going to look up suspect. Not suspect, but suspect. Okay. And there we go. So get it to focus for us here. Okay, suspect. All right. Thank you, Mr. Crosby, Mr. Schaeffer, for making life easy for us. We appreciate you. Okay, let's go back. So that's what you do. Take the Greek, or take the English here, translate it into Greek. Typically, in Greek, you would put the verb at the end of the sentence. I think it's more fun to do that. If you just follow the English order, word for word, and replace the Greek word or the English words with Greek words, that's fine too. You will get more accustomed to the Greek order with the verb at the end, the more Greek you read. Okay? So don't stress out over that. If you want to put the verb at the end, I think it's more fun. You don't have to. Okay? Just make sure you've got the right Greek words, case, number, and gender for nouns and adjectives, and also tense, person, and number for verbs. Okay? So that's that. It goes down to number 5, down below. And that is not the Parthenon. That is the Lincoln Memorial. All right? Obviously stolen from Greek architecture. We steal everything from them. Okay. So that's it. All right. Next lesson, we'll do some reading, which will be fun, but we'll save that for our next lesson. All right. And so, yeah, we've got a couple weeks here to just solidify what we have learned, review, and make sure we know what we know. All right. That's it for today. Again, if you're interested in having some help on your exercises and checking your work against my work, feel free to look at the link in the description below for our Patreon page. It's $10 a month, and that gives you access to all the answers for all the exercises in Crosby and Schaeffer, and you also have access to all the exercise answers for the Latin side of things too, if you are so inclined to learn Latin also. But thank you for joining us today. This is Classical Greek Latin. My name is Josh, and I hope you have a good day, good rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Thank you. Bye.